two, one.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Confidential Fan Guild. I'm Steve, and I'm here with the amazing superhero enthusiast
Hey everybody.
and the magnificent Magpie.
Hello!
It almost sounds like a circus act when we just say it like that.
Well, like that woman's belly button on Seinfeld.
Hang on, I'm just trying to pull this rabbit out of this hat.
I was stuffing rabbits into my cape, but that didn't go very well. But we are here this time to talk about Veronica Mars, which was my pick after our last Doctor Who episode. And it was something very recent that I just got into, and I wanted to force you guys to see it because that's what CFG is all about, forcing people to watch things that you don't have anyone to talk about with. And I'm sure I'm glad you guys liked it because I was afraid that you might force me to watch something terrible after this.
Yeah, I want to actually say thank you because I really like the show.
Yeah, thanks from me as well. I'm glad I actually went and made the effort to go out and buy all three seasons on DVD because they were right there in my Sanity store, not the Insanity store.
Yeah, the show's making a comeback with the movies. I think it's easier to get access to, and it's got more fans. But part of the reason I was hesitant to recommend this for the show is because it's got so much strange American like high school culture infused into it, that I wasn't sure how much you guys enjoy it. But you convinced me because people all around the world seem to like it. But I guess just to start this off, what were your immediate reactions watching it? Did it take you a while to get invested, or was it an immediate thing, or just what were your reactions going into the first couple episodes?
I'll let you go first, Alex.
Yeah, I was hooked pretty much from the beginning. I was like, wow, this is incredibly noir. And it is, and that's I guess the genius of the concept. It's like a private detective show, but set at high school.
To be honest, the pilot didn't hook me in immediately, but the more I can definitely say after the first disc, I was hooked on because Kristen Bell's character Veronica is just awesome. That was enough to get me going on with it, and I just love how they would have each episode, or almost each episode, they'd have a little mini mystery, but they had this overarching mystery for the season. Because initially I thought that the whole mystery in this first season was going to be the one that was going to stretch out through the series. But in a way, I'm disappointed it wasn't. But in a way, I'm also glad that it turned out, oh, well, no. It's just the season.
Well, in a weird way, that overarching mystery kind of informs the character arcs for all three seasons.
Yeah, it does. So,
because there's stuff of it that still gets wrapped up in season 2, and a little bit more that gets wrapped up in season 3, even though like the core of who committed the crime is in this season.
yeah.
It has a lot of departments to cover. Alex, you mentioned the noir thing, and the creator initially planned this as like a series of teen novels where the protagonist was a male, but he thought a woman would be so much more interesting since you don't get that very often. And Magpie, you mentioned the format of a long mystery, so maybe the best way to tackle the show is just to go down its 3 core components, which is the overarching mystery, the noir stuff, and the character relationships. To touch on it broadly with the noir, what did you guys enjoy about that? Because I'm a really big noir fan, and that's kind of what got me into the show, is that it's a neo-noir piece, and it has so much of the stereotypes, but they're so reinvigorated because it's a teen drama at the same time. So what did you guys think of that? How do you think it handled juggling noir and teen drama?
Well, I think those things go really well together, and I feel this way about like teen drama and superheroes as well, is that when you're a teenager, everything feels like it's a big life and death situation, despite the fact that it's not, because you're just a teenager. but it has that feeling to it. And so taking situations where it is literally life and death, it is really a big deal, and putting it in that kind of context, they just kind of go hand in glove, I think.
The same. I just really, I was so into the mystery that I probably didn't pay much attention to the noir stuff, but it was definitely there. They loved mentioning it throughout the show, because I couldn't stop after season one. I haven't got to the movie yet, but yeah, I couldn't stop. When I find something I really like, I like fully embrace myself into it. So yeah, I did see. To me, it didn't feel so noir. It still felt very teen drama-y, but it was definitely more. The noir was definitely there.
They take the conventions of the noir genre, of, you know, the flashbacks and the voiceover narration, but they strip it of any of the kind of 1940s cliche. It does feel very modern.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did feel like Veronica's inner monologue was not. It was just like this neat little thing that they added to the show, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, she doesn't talk like Philip Marlowe or something.
No, she talks like a teenage girl.
And they mix those elements really well, because they introduce her with her backstory, and it's on the one hand a teen drama thing where she's not popular anymore, but on the other hand, she was raped, and she has now a very distorted view of humanity and how the hero is the one that stays and the villain's the one that leaves and abandons you, and she doesn't trust people, kind of like a stereotypical detective. It's great how they merge that, because teenage culture about being isolated from everybody else and getting that psychological issue in a very real context of what happens to people. I thought all of that was really fascinating, because I think the show more than anything is about how you can never be truly an isolationist, because everything that isolates you also connects you to people.
The whole her backstory and the party and all that, it felt very Batman in a way, and in that sense, I'm not sure how I feel about the resolution of that particular plot thread of the rape, because I kind of feel it's like, with Batman, yeah, they've done Joe Chill and stuff, but I think often Batman works best when, like, you don't know who it was who, killed his parents, if that random, mugger is still out there somewhere. Because it just sort of provides the, their impetus to, be the crime fighter. Because, that is her whole thing is, she does take it to the police and they do nothing. And that's why she's someone who takes the law into her own hands, sort of.
Alex, you haven't got to the end of season 2 yet, have you?
No, I'm like 3 episodes away.
Well, there's still more to add to that story, so...
All right.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil too much of that, because I think the reveal to the mystery is actually kind of disappointing in both season 1 and season 2, because I don't think it adds up.
No.
But yeah. It's an interesting concept, at least, to get like a really traumatic issue and mix it with so much teen drama. Because you get points in the show where she's questioning whether or not she should be loyal to her dad. And that sounds kind of immature to say for a teenage girl, but then you put it all into context and what she's been through, and it doesn't seem so ridiculous anymore. There's that story about her tracking down her mother. How did you guys feel about the payoff to that? Because that was one of the shorter mysteries, and I don't think that they even ever intended to pay that off either.
No, I thought it was very of the time, every show seemed to have, even the OC, which I mentioned in the first countdown thing that we did, which was Guilty Pleasures, that everyone had to be an alcoholic. Like the West Wing had an alcoholic on it. This has an alcoholic on it, and the OC had an alcoholic on it. It seemed like that was the theme of the time, was everyone's an alcoholic. In Australia, we could just call it being Australian. But yeah, I didn't mind it. But I think we could have gone. They could have gone for places with that. And at the end of the day, she's just like she's gone, and we never find out what happens with her, if she ever actually does officially hit rock bottom, she dies or whatever. But I think that if we had gotten a fourth season, and I don't mean the FBI thing, I mean like if we continued on with the college thing, would have probably gone back to that sometime. But,
Yeah, it was admittedly not, I guess, the most interesting aspect of the first season. I thought it worked, and like it still worked as a smaller thing in there. I don't like because I don't feel like every mystery or every part of the larger plot needs to be like a huge thing. Like it's okay to have smaller little bits in there that only last kind of a few episodes.
Yeah, and it does inform her character a little bit because I think it is kind of tragic when she spends all of her money to all of her college savings to get her into an alcoholic program, and then she just quits.
It does a lot to show her that her old life is over. Her mother won't come back. Her parents won't get together. She won't become an 09er again, basically. The changes are permanent. And I think she was maybe in denial of that for a long time.
Yeah, and a lot of that gets questioned once again when we get to season 2 about is she the independent, isolationist, kind of hard-boiled person, or does she still have some of that in her? And there's a lot of conflict with that. Well, she gets like her first boyfriend in the season, who's played by, I think it's Shawn Ashmore.
No, it's his brother Aaron. They're
it's his
identical
brother Aaron.
twins.
They're twins. It's confusing.
Yeah.
they're both coming out here, so yeah.
But yeah, like she's always constantly trying to regain aspects of that life while trying to derail it and hating everyone who's a part of it at the same time. And that all just comes from what happened with her best friend Lily, which is the overarching murder mystery in this first season. And it seeds into every character, and every character has a role to play in it. In a lot of ways, it does sort of feel like the big convoluted mysteries of noir films back in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, and despite the fact that this did kind of go all over the place, it did so in a good way. And, you know, you could still... I don't want to say that, like, they telegraphed the ending, because, leaving clues isn't necessarily telegraphing. It's a mystery thing. You're supposed to do that. But, yeah, I mean, like, I called the ending, but at the same time, I wasn't terribly disappointed in it either.
I didn't call the ending, but I was like, I wasn't overly thrilled with it either. I was like, oh, I should have seen that. It's like,
It felt more like oh, this does make sense for the most part, kind of thing.
Yeah, it did. It was just like, well, because I was actually thinking it was probably going to turn out to be the mother out of jealousy, her daughter getting all the attention. Or something. That, to me, that made a little bit more sense.
I was kind of hoping it would be Duncan, only because I think that adds a little bit to the conflict that all the characters are feeling, and it kind of gives that theme a more physical symbol. But the problem with that, of course, would be that they would telegraph that aspect way too early anyway. So you can have like a 22-episode season and have that be the reveal.
Yeah, and in a mystery, you do need to have a red herring, and he definitely served that purpose.
Clearly.
Yeah. I like how we kind of meticulously go through every character's alibi for where they were at the time of this murder. So we have a real sense of who who could realistically do it. At the same time, do you guys agree that when she gets the tapes at the end, it's not really enough evidence to say he did it? It's only enough evidence when he goes nuts and tries to kill her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
and they addressed that in season 2, but in this it feels a little bit weird.
yeah, it does. But it's sort of like it's not the smoking gun, but in some ways it is. It's like, oh, yeah.
They evidently have enough to convict him, though. So, regardless of whether or not he's in jail for the Lily Kane murder or not,
Yeah. Well,
he's doing time.
Yeah. And I guess that's another little bit of a red herring, because when the first time you see him, Aaron Eccles go insane and like beat his son, it's kind of dramatic, but then you forget about it before we get to another scene where he beats someone up and it feels kind of jokey, where he's building up his daughter's boyfriend.
Who hit her. And yeah,
who hit her.
It's kind of like, oh, he's evil, and like, oh no, you're kind of rooting for him in that scene because the boyfriend's a douchebag, but it's like one douchebag beating up another douchebag.
well,
And he definitely has some mental issues with the way he regrets his wife's death, but killed an innocent girl and beat up his son and her daughter's boyfriend.
I thought it was pretty cool that we got Alison Hannigan in this as well, because she's cool every time she shows up.
Oh yeah, definitely. Do we want to jump around and just go to characters?
Sure.
Okay, so who are your guys' favorite characters in the show? Like maybe your first 2 or 3, because there are a lot of characters. I think all of them kind of rank pretty closely to the top because they're also well developed.
Well,
because the big one, I guess.
Yeah.
Modern day Nancy Drew.
Yeah.
Meets like,
pretty much.
Mickey Spillane novel. Yeah.
Well, Veronica, in this season. What's his name?
Logan?
No, Logan doesn't become my favorite character until later on.
Yeah, he gets better.
We will definitely early on. Wallace, whenever he's actually there.
Wallace was a surprisingly good character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You typically expect just the best friend character to be somewhat flat and just kind of there for the main character to bounce stuff off of, and he's not. He's more than that.
No, he's got his own talents, and he's got his own conflicts, and he seems to be living the ideal life that she wished she could, where she could be an outsider and an insider at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you guys think of Wallace's mom and Veronica's dad getting together for quite a bit of time? Because I actually was hoping that would get paid off, and it really just burns off into the wind, sort of thing.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that would stick too. But I think the reason behind ending it also made a little bit of sense as far as them being like mature adults.
Mm-hmm. I really like Veronica's dad. He's a cool guy.
He's great. That guy is just all sorts of fun. Because he arguably has some of the most serious stuff to do and gets a little bit more physical than the other characters, but he's always funny and he's always charming. Mm-hmm. And when he's upset with Veronica, it's legitimately a tense scene because he doesn't get mad very often.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't pronounce the guy that plays that character, but
Enrico Colantoni, I think.
Yeah,
he's a Canadian actor.
Doesn't sound that way, but season 3 he gets a visit from his girlfriend in Just Shoot Me, so that was really cool seeing her come back. But I won't say too much about it just because Alex hasn't got there yet. But Mac comes into it, and I've said to you guys, I want to marry Mac because she's so cute and so funny. I just
And
uh,
she gets a lot of cool stuff to do. Like when she's first introduced and how she's behind that whole website mystery to begin with.
Hmm.
yeah, I just have a thing with girls and computers. Girls who like computers.
The show has a lot of recurring characters and kind of fewer main characters because it's like everyone just disappears for a long period of time except for Veronica, and then they just magically disappear, reappear as if they were never gone.
Yeah, like that happens with Mac uh, through season one. Like she shows up in season one, disappears, and then comes back, and then becomes part of the main cast in season three, which I was so glad for.
Yeah,
'Cause,
there's a big amount of episodes in season one where she's just not there, but then she just resurfaces in the finale. And season two, she's there more. Um, and she almost replaces Wallace in the third season, doesn't she?
mm, yeah,
Were there any characters you guys didn't like?
well, I didn't particularly like Logan early on, which was really weird because I actually, for quite a while, I actually thought he was going to turn out to be the one that raped her, and I had that in my head because I was like, oh, it's gonna be him, it's gonna be him, it's gonna be him, and it wasn't, and I was like, ooh.
They
But we
could have
should.
been very predictable.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I wasn't giving the show enough credit early on.
Hmm. Yeah, well, Logan's kind of interesting in that I don't know that I like him. Like, if I knew somebody like that, I'd want to knock their teeth out. But um, he's awesome to watch because he's that complete wise ass who always has a snarky comment to everyone, and so makes for good TV, I guess.
Mm.
He's got an interesting psychology, if nothing else,
Mm-hmm.
about his weird obsession with one-upmanship. And despite his place in society, he still wants something more from it. And that's gonna come back more when we get to the movie, if you guys ever watch it. But it's
I'm gonna
definitely
watch it.
there.
I know.
Yeah, because he's got like this new position when you get to the movie. They don't do too much with, but just the idea that he would take a certain job makes a lot of sense for his character.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spoil it because it's actually kind of surprising when you figure it out. Logan has that moment in the episode where he first finds out his dad beats him with the belt, where he has those bum fights, and the guy he offers money up to at first comes back to him and says, "Did you find someone else who would like be your bitch for money?" And he looks at his dad, who just took like $100 million deal for a movie, and then makes him give it away in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a good thing to do and kind of a dick thing to do at the same time.
You can totally see
'Cause
why
it's-
Logan ended up the way that he did with that father.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that weird home life.
Um,
He's almost as much of an outsider as Veronica is. It's just he was born in the right social class.
mm-hmm.
And they play with that a lot because recently the whole one percenters versus the rest of us idea has been in a lot of films and TV. And I think this is kind of where it kicked off, at least. Because this is kind of an exaggerated town where everyone's either rich or everyone's either poor.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if Neptune, California actually exists as a town name.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't
but-
think so, but yeah, I don't know, like, because I've never been, but it feels like a pretty typical TV version of California.
Oh,
Yeah, it does. And they do a lot with how if you're rich, you can get away with anything, and if you're not, life's going to be terrible there.
Yeah, that is a big part of it, is the big social divide. And I do find it maybe a little weird that, like, a lot of the rich kids go to a public high school, but
Yeah, I guess that's just kind of a standard TV contrivance to get all your characters in one place.
yeah, it doesn't bother me really. But
It's interesting because it's not especially a nature versus nurture thing, but you start to see that all the kids have very similar problems. And the only thing that's different about them is they deal with those issues differently based on who they're friends with and what kind of money they have.
Yeah.
And that's kind of accurate, right? Like it's all about how they were raised and what their impulses make them do.
Mm. I just,
So maybe,
I was just
sorry,
going
go
to
ahead.
bring up another character that's not a big deal in this season, but becomes a big deal in the second and third season, and that's the character of. 'Cause I can't find his full name listed here, but he's the blonde guy named Dick.
Oh, Dick Casablancas.
Yeah. So he doesn't have much to do here. He was sort of at the party where uh, Veronica got raped, and yeah, he becomes a big deal later on. But I'm just curious what Alex and you thought of him this far in.
He doesn't get much to do just yet. He's to me seems like the most stereotypical out of everyone in the show.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
Like yeah, like everyone else I can find realistic representations of, or I've met people like that, but no one has been as exaggerated as Dick.
mm. It's, it was really like I really feel like the cancelization of the show sort of affected his character probably the most because I think he was just getting ready to step out and do some cool stuff.
Yeah, he definitely had a bigger role that was never fully realized. I don't even think he's in the movie for more than a couple minutes,
Oh, okay.
so that's a little bit disappointing. I know Alex brought up a couple of points about the cast when we were talking about the show. If you want to go ahead and talk about that.
Sure.
Sure.
Oh, you mean
Yeah,
the...
you mentioned about you mentioned about like Logan and Duncan's actors.
Well, yeah, I just think that the guy who plays Duncan looks a lot like he could be actually the son of Logan's parents, or I guess the actors who play Logan's parents, and kind of vice versa. And then you told me that actually those actors auditioned for those parts. And don't get me wrong, I think those the actor who plays Duncan and the actor who plays Logan both do really, really great jobs in their roles, but I'm just going on a purely looks basis. Like, I don't think the guy who plays Logan looks anything like the people who play his parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's very, very funny that Mac was switched at birth. Do you think something else happened at that hospital and those two got switched at birth?
You kind of wonder.
Yeah. Um,
And a town that's just as strange and bizarre, as far as mysteries go, that doesn't seem like the outside of the realm of possibility.
yeah. Yeah, I've got quite a bit more to say when we get to season 2 about someone certain character running away to a certain place and
Yeah.
that place looking nothing like that place that he runs away to.
Since we've all gotten to that point, if you want to just go ahead and mention that.
Yeah, mm, just, Duncan runs away to Australia and gets to a place called Mollymook, and he's sitting on a beach playing with his daughter, and there's one of those lifeguard houses places. As far as I know, we don't really have those out here, so that beach looks nothing. It looks too American. It does. It doesn't look anything like an Australian beach. So, and I know it would have cost money to fly out here just to shoot that scene, but that place looks nothing like that. So yeah.
Well, it's like how every TV show that gets, filmed up here and in like Vancouver, especially, like Vancouver looks like Vancouver. and on Battlestar Galactica, whenever they went on a planet, like it looked like British Columbia. It looks very, very distinct.
Yeah. Well, you would know that better than anyone. It's just like, yeah, whenever they try and do an Australian place, looking at it, I'm like, that place does not look anything like that. No.
And we talked a little bit about that when we did Terminator, when we had the same thing with Sarah Connor Chronicles.
And and with the Aussie characters in well, the Aussie character in Arrow looks is not Aussie enough for my taste.
I guess we're getting into the realm of like realistic stuff, but the show gets heralded as being like really relatable, despite some of its more bizarre turns, because it plays these characters off like really naturally and very realistically. Was there anyone in the show that you guys like related to, or anything that felt like a real situation that you might have been in? Because I know there was a couple of those moments in the show for me where it's kind of scary how accurate they get certain things.
Well, let's just say if my dad married Charisma Carpenter, I would probably have the same reaction as those guys did. Just, yeah, I would definitely have that reaction. I think I would probably be friends with someone like Logan, but I don't think I would be friends with someone like Duncan. I don't know why, but it doesn't. He just seems really out there sometimes. Very moody. And I don't think I would ever actually have sex with someone who I actually thought was my sister.
Fair enough.
That whole scenario is kind of strange.
It was.
Oh.
But it's strange and uncomfortable in a good way, because they do really sell the tension between them.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, do you have anybody like that you connect to at all in the show?
I don't know. I mean, everybody to some degree or another, because it does feel somewhat realistic as far as like high school goes. At least on that level. Like, I can't point to anybody or any situation necessarily in particular off the top of my head, but just kind of the general vibe of it took me back there and was like, yeah, those were weird years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess when you go back and talk to some friends from high school, or you just remember high school, it's nowhere near as dramatic as it was when you were there, and you kind of feel embarrassed for some of the things that you did while you were there. And it captures that just right, about like the weird end of the world mentality about everyone.
Yeah, you feel just embarrassed for your whole attitude towards it, because it was such, of not a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. It's.
I guess we kind of ran the gambit on the show, but is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
I'd definitely say check out the show. Like, there's a lot of good here, and you'll be very disappointed once you get closer and closer to the end. You'll be like, why, CW? Why'd you let this show go?
Yeah, I don't really know what to say other than that. It's incredibly good, and the show is worthy of its reputation, I think. And I don't know how often that's the case, but it definitely is the case here. And yeah, I love this show. I didn't know totally what to expect going in, but I think it's great.
I'm glad I didn't know what to expect. I was just like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess it almost works better for you guys, which was the opposite attitude from when I first introduced it. Because I guess the less you know about and the less you relate to going right into the series, the better it turns out.
I feel that with things in general, because I mean, like recently I came to the decision that like I'm gonna try to avoid movie trailers, especially for movies that I'm gonna like that I know I'm gonna see, because my weirdly enough, despite this not being even remotely the best movie I saw this past year, but like my best movie going experience I think was Thor: The Dark World, just because I didn't pay attention to really the marketing for that movie. I think I saw a teaser trailer and that was it, and I didn't know anything going in, and so you can just kind of be taken by surprise and get to experience the thing on its own terms. And I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
We definitely don't get enough of that anymore.
No, not with the friggin' here's the first 10 minutes of the movie, you know, here's a 4-minute trailer. Here's 100 million TV spots.
Yeah, here's like 6 or 7 4 or 5 minute trailers for The Amazing Spider-Man, exploring every single aspect of the film, so much so that the last scene is in the trailer.
Yeah. Don't do that, Hollywood.
I guess the Veronica Mars movie is actually unique in that it only had like one trailer, and it wasn't aired very often. I think the most you could see is like online when watching stuff on the CW's website.
Yeah.
So hopefully you'll be surprised watching that.
But that was kickstarted and was pretty cheaply produced, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kickstarted and it got $5.7 million in total.
And that was like in a couple of hours, wasn't it?
It was $2 million in 10 hours. But before it ended, it got like 5.7 million in just a couple days.
It's impressive.
Yeah, it's really amazing how much the fans funded that show, because no one wanted to see it get canceled, and it was extremely surprising when it was, because it didn't ever get bad ratings.
For the CW, that is.
Yeah, for the CW, it never got bad ratings.
Let me just say that it was doing Arrow's ratings pretty much now.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, I'm just checking to make sure I have the.
Yeah, from what I remember, it was about Arrow's numbers.
Yeah, I just checked it out. It's averaging 2.5 on the first season and the third season, and just a 2 for the most recent for the second season. So, yeah.
And Rob Thomas has said that like he wanted to work on 2 other shows, and he just didn't have time for Veronica Mars, and that's even stranger knowing that the 2 shows he was working on were canceled after 7 to 20 episodes.
Yeah, and I had never even heard of those shows, but I'd heard of Veronica Mars.
Yeah, but now he's back, and if anyone like finished the whole series in the film, they can check out the new book series he's doing to continue it.
It's a shame that he couldn't get the show back on the air, because it seemed like a pretty good idea, from what I see in the FBI show that they wanted to do.
Yeah, they made a teaser trailer that showcased kind of what their plan was for season 4, but again, none of that was ever realized. If you want to check out more Rob Thomas, though, he is the one of the showrunners for iZombie coming to the CW, and I have no interest in that show, but Rob Thomas is attached, so now I'm actually pretty curious. And it's another female lead.
Okay.
Cool. I will say this show has great actors, and I mean we did talk briefly about the cast, but Kristen Bell does amazing in this. She like hits every note just perfectly, and Veronica gets a lot of stuff emotionally to do, so that's really saying something. The guy
She's
who
very
plays
Buffy, isn't she?
I'm not familiar enough with Buffy to make that comparison, but
okay, yeah.
Not really. Like, there is some Buffy stuff there, but I wouldn't go comparing the two.
I mean, they certainly got the same snarky attitude.
They're both very strong strong women, so yeah, in that respect, yeah.
I really do like the guy who plays Logan. You know, he knows how to deliver those lines perfectly.
Yeah, And as I've recently learned, be in the moment.
Yeah, no one in the show was miscast. And even if like you mentioned with Logan and Duncan's actors possibly working better switched, they still really sell their roles.
Yeah, absolutely. And
And it's kind
Veronica's
of hard
dad's
to
great too.
Oh yeah, he's totally great.
Yeah.
A lot of fans also complained like how this show never got any Emmys for acting, and it probably should have.
Agreed. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what are they competing with that. So.
And I gotta say, Kristen Bell has never acted as well as she does in this show. Like she's done a lot of romantic comedies, but she's never as good as she is when she's played Veronica Mars.
Yeah, I think this fully get like she. I don't mean this as an insult because I think it takes a lot more to. I think she's more. She should be a leading woman on television because really gives her a chance to fully explore acting skills. In a movie, you're sort of like confined to a certain area. Like I liked her in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but she didn't get really as much to do in that. So she's doing something, I think, right now, isn't she? Though she's on some sort of TV show, I think.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, I think she is.
Well, I haven't seen her in a little while, but as far as like the Veronica Mars movie goes, she steps right back into that role so well, as if she was never gone.
Yeah.
So she's definitely got a lot of talent. She just doesn't seem to do anything that kind of warrants her performance.
And part of it too is I think this show is just tremendously written. The dialogue is great, so that definitely helps.
Yeah.
And it's over dramatic in the teenage sense, but it's never like melodramatic like TV can so often be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you guys have any other final thoughts on the show,
As far as the first season goes, and obviously parts of season 2, but no, I think as far as the first season goes, I think in some ways it's the best season, but in other ways you'll want to continue on after this. You will want to get the complete series on DVD. You'll probably want to after you get see that final episode, you'll want to jump straight into the movie. I just couldn't at the time because it was the middle of the night, and I was like, "Oh, I'll get to it tomorrow." This will definitely fit into our probably if we ever do a full episode on binge watching. This will definitely be on my list of things to binge watch.
Yeah, it's a great show. I feel like I'm selling it short by not coming up with more to say about it, but it's just kind of like, Netflix this or buy the DVDs or whatever. Just get it in front of you, sit down and watch. You will like it.
Yeah, it wasn't terribly expensive when I bought it, and I'm glad I got it as part of my collection now. I just wish we had gotten another season. Then and then I'd probably be like, I wish we got another season.
It's a show you never really want to end, but it has to at some point.
Yeah.
I apologize for not giving a summary of the show when we started, but if you ever watch it, you'll realize that that's really hard to do because everything is so extremely character driven, and it's got this central focus, but yet it's episodic at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just easier to discuss it very generally and with all the spoilers intact, instead of trying to avoid things and trying to say, well, this is the very basic premise of the show, because it doesn't really have that. It's extremely unique in that way.
It does balance the episodic versus the serialized really, really well.
Oh yeah, it totally does. It does lead to some strange cliffhangers, though, where an episode would end on a very dramatic note, and they won't address it again for 3 episodes.
Yeah,
I'm feeling that way a lot about season 2.
Yeah, I guess a very specific example in season 1 is when her mom leaves her a message on her voicemail, and she doesn't check it for 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
I don't know, maybe it's just cell phone technology, but that was extremely strange.
yeah, it was weird.
That does happen a lot, and that's a, maybe if we have to throw in a criticism of the show is, yeah, there'll be a really dramatic cliffhanger, and then that won't come up again for a couple episodes.
Yeah, it's still really good binge watched though, and I feel like it almost requires it. Because I can't imagine watching the show weekly.
Oh,
It would be hard to follow.
It would be, definitely. Piecing the mystery together is part of the fun. Especially when I sat down and rewatched the season for this. It actually plays a lot better the second time, and you do pick up some clues as to where everything is going.
okay. I haven't had a chance to do that. I've only watched it through once, but I will watch it through again. But,
It never stops being addicting, so that's definitely good.
okay.
But yeah, if that's our final thoughts, I guess I'll just throw out that it's quickly becoming one of my favorite shows. And even though I just rewatched the first season, I might actually sit down and watch all 3 seasons again pretty soon. So do we want to talk about what we're doing next?
Well, even though we're recording this at the tail end of May, this episode's not coming out until the very beginning of July. So the next one of these will be in August. So we haven't decided what the countdown this month will be yet. So yeah, or we might just address a topic or something in that. But August is my birthday month, so we're going to be doing something for me. And that, I know we only just did Doctor Who for me, but it's whenever it's someone's birthday, they get to pick the topic. So, and we've structured that so that will work. But anyway, August is my birth month, so it'll be my pick, and my pick is the very, very short-lived series. And no, it's not Firefly, guys. Sorry.
Damn.
But it is something I watched, and I have mentioned it. We're going to be doing the short-lived series Last Resort, and that's about a submarine crew that has to run away from the U.S. government and take refuge on a island in the Pacific, or is it the Indian? I can't remember, but very close to Australia. But yeah, so that will be covering that and its intrigue and mystery and how I am so ticked off that it got canned, but so glad that it actually got a decent final episode. But yeah. So it's not as tragic as Firefly, but in my book it kind of is. So I'd be curious to go see what you guys think. It's got a stellar cast. It was great. I believe it was nominated for some awards, so I'm really surprised it got canned. So, but we'll be talking about that next time. So, yeah, I guess that's it from us. Guys, thank you for listening.